Good evening, everyone. So there's an urgent NATO war warning that was released like 2 hours ago. I've not read the full article yet. I'm going to open it up in a minute and we're going to read that together. And I'm going to give you my real-time reaction on this. Guys, listen, I've been saying this now for the longest time. The world is heading towards a global conflict on an industrial scale. This NATO war warning, what they're telling us now about Russia wanting to, well, let's just get straight into the article, guys. But the jux of this video is going to be NATO's war warning. So let's just get into the article and I will give commentary. NATO must shift to a wartime mindset, Secretary General warns. Russia is preparing for a long-term confrontation with Ukraine and with us. Mark Rutte, that's this guy who was recently taken over as the Secretary General, said, adding, "We are not ready for what is coming." Guys, listen, I've been talking about this for such a long time. I've been saying that NATO is not ready. We don't produce enough stuff. We've bound ourselves by red tape. In 4 to 5 years, I think it's going to be a lot sooner than that. But either way, it's coming. Head of NATO has warned that the alliance is not ready for the threats it will face from Russia in the coming years. And that it is time to shift to a wartime mindset. I've been saying this for such a long time. Mark Rutte, the Secretary General of the organization, said NATO members had spent more than 3% GDP on defense during the Cold War and argued future spending would have to be much higher than the alliance's current target of 2%. So it's not just the spending of, it's not just the amount of spending, it's what are you actually, hang on guys, I got a message, this could be from one of my contacts in Ukraine. No, it is, but it's, we're talking about chicken wings, don't worry. So, yeah, it's not about what we are. It's not about bang for our buck. It's not about how much money we're spending. It's about what we're actually getting for this money. You know, when I was in the military, like, you know, we would get, let me think of an example. Land Rover, you know, Land Rover parts, they had to come from the manufacturer. The bolts, the washers, everything needed to come from the, from the manufacturer. That was expensive. You know, you could buy these bolts from any hardware shop in, in the town, but, you know, these had to be special ones from Land Rover. You know, as I understand it, the Air Force is the same, whereby, you know, little nuts, little bolts that you need for servicing, they have to be bought from the manufacturers. So this brings up the price of everything. And because people are not spending their own money, they just pay these things. We're going to be moving into remember what I keep saying. Remember that phrase, industrial, a global conflict on an industrial scale. It's starting to not matter how much money we're spending now. The money doesn't matter. We need to be getting more stuff. So we need to get rid of red tape. We need to empower smaller companies to work for the military industrial complex. And we need to create more stuff. We need to standardize our stuff. Instead of having 5, 6, 10, X amount of different vehicles, we need one vehicle that everybody knows, everybody uses, everybody understands how it works, everybody can repair. You know, all these different systems, it doesn't help. Russia is preparing for a long-term confrontation with Ukraine and with us, Mr. Rutte said during a speech in Brussels. We are not ready for what's coming. Wow, I think that should be, listen, that's going to be the thumbnail. We are not ready for what's coming our way in 4 to 5 years. And he is right. He is right with a 100% certainty rate. The West is not ready to fight this war. We don't understand what's coming. We've got no idea. We are not prepared for these attrition rates. He added, it's time to shift to a wartime mindset and again, I'm reading this in real time, guys, and turbocharge our defense production and defense spending. That bit there, defense production. Yes, it's kind of synonymous with spending, but if Russia's spending £1 and we're having to spend £50 and we're getting the same return, then they are going to outspend us in that context. Yes, of course, we can print more money, but that has problems down the line. Anyway, remember, it's going to be an industrial, this is going to be a global conflict on an industrial scale. Mr. Rutt said the current security situation was the worst in my lifetime. He's right. People, especially on the other platform, say, oh, what's all this doom mongering? We've got this. What's his size? The Secretary General, yeah, I think. Yeah, Secretary General Mark Rutte, the Secretary General, saying that this is the worst security situation, worst in his life, the worst security situation in his life. It is. We've got Russia, China, Iran, North Korea, potentially, well, not Syria now. Syria's just fallen. All these guys are allied. We have got conflicts now in Ukraine, North and South Korea. We've got North Koreans in Russia fighting alongside the Russians. And we've had reports that the South Koreans are now in Ukraine assisting the Ukrainians. We've got all these conflicts all over the world. We've got Syria, we've got Israel, we've got the Middle East, all these things. Everything is literally on flames. And I agree with him. This is the worst, it's the worst in my lifetime as well. NATO leaders agreed to end the defense cuts that began when the Cold War ended after the Russian annex. I'm totally forgetting here, guys. Right. So basically what he's saying here is, at the end of the Cold War, there was something called a peace dividend. So we no longer had to spend such vast amounts on defense. And this gave the peace dividend brought us into, prosperity. But after this, right, hang on, this doesn't make sense. NATO leaders agreed to end the defense cuts that began when the Cold War ended after Russia annexed Ukraine's Crimean Peninsula a decade ago. Right, that sentence kind of doesn't make sense, but I do understand what they're saying. So they're saying that the Cold War ended after the Russians annexed Crimea, after the Cold War ended. Right, this does not make any sense. Guys, does this make any sense to you? NATO leaders agreed to end the defense cuts that began when the Cold War ended after the Russians are right. Okay, I'm just going to say that what they're trying to say in that sentence is people need to spend more. But since Russia invaded Ukraine almost 3 years ago, they have agreed the 2% target should be the minimum on defense spending. Right. Okay. So first of all, right, I'm kind of calling BS to this sentence here. So Russia didn't just annex the Crimean Peninsula in 2014. Russia invaded Ukraine as well in 2014. There were tanks moving in from from Donetsk. There's been lots of articles about the downing of MH17. So, first of all, I'm starting to lose credibility about this article, and whoever wrote it doesn't know what they're talking about. Alas, will continue. But since Russia invaded almost 3 years ago, they have agreed the 2% target should be the minimum for defense spending. Okay, yeah, fair enough. While the alliance meets that target collectively, around a third of its members did not hit it individually. At least 23 of its 32 members will meet the 2% target this year, the alliance estimates. So remember, I've done lots of videos. I've said how ineffective NATO is, how it's not worth the paper it's written on. I'm going to leave this there, guys. I'm going to give my further commentary. I will put this link in the description. Hang on. I'll put this link in the description. You guys can read through it at your leisure and tell me what you think. But what we've got to understand about NATO now is it's over, it's obsolete. I've done lots of videos saying how everybody relies on NATO Article 5 and think it's some sort of protection. It's not. Donald Trump, he's also said that NATO's, he may pull out of NATO. He may, stop funding NATO. Remember, I think something along these. Sorry, guys, I whacked my finger on a nail chopping wood earlier. So Donald Trump's going to I believe Donald Trump will pull out of NATO, or he will stop funding it, or when he goes to fight this war in the Middle East. Kind of doesn't matter, because we're looking for a new global shake-up, a new global reform, a new world. I don't know. You guys tell me what the missing word is. And we're looking like we're heading there, whereby the United States is going to fight in the Middle East, United Kingdom is going to lead NATO against the Russians, and who knows where we end up. But anyway, guys, I want to keep this video relatively short, because I'm going to try and do another video on these UAPs, these UFOs. The jux of the video is NATO war warning. We are not ready. Guys, it's going to get wild where, you know, people are telling us that we're ready for a long haul, a long war, a conflict on an industrial scale where we need to up our production. Not just me saying it now. We've got the NATO Secretary General talking exactly what I've been saying. Anyway, guys, I'm going to make the grid. I'll get you guys another video later.